Broadcasting from Hollywood, California, it's Grant's Rants, Hollywood Talk.
Is Arsenio Hall at the center of Prince's passing? 50 Cent pays for his misstep on Twitter. Tiffany New York Pollard is back on TV, and Flavor Flav is back in trouble. 2020 looks at Scientology, and Jeff Graham rants with us right here. Let the ranting begin. I'm sitting across from writer and recent comedy rapper, Jeff Graham. Jeff's album just came out, Taking Honky Back, and we're going to talk all about it. Jeff.
Grant, thank you so much for having me. It's awesome to be here. I'm a fan of the podcast.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, we met through AfterBuzz.
Yes.
And I think the second day I met you, I told you about the podcast because I was still kind of conceptualizing it all. What was it, last summer?
Yeah, it would have been, I think I started AfterBuzz in August, so it would have been late summer.
Yeah, because this show began in August.
Yeah.
So I've been keeping you in the loop about this for a long time, so it's about time we have you on. I have a lot to talk about and to promote, so it's good timing.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks again for having me. It's awesome.
Of course. So let's talk about some hot topic rants on the show. Let's get started right away.
Yeah.
You sent me this topic, and I'm interested in talking about it. Now, of course, Prince has passed, and it's created a phenomenon and just a ripple effect across the world.
Right.
And, of course, these things make people behave in terrible ways.
Always. Were you a big Prince fan? I first have to ask that.
A little bit, not big enough to say, like I grew up with, David Bowie. That was, a different thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, disco and everything my mom wanted to listen to and the Cars and all that, but no, when it came to Prince, I knew of him. I knew some of his songs, and I knew mainly Purple Rain because it was Britney Spears' favorite song.
Nice.
So I had to know that. I put that on a mixtape when I had my 13th birthday, and my mom paid $25 for this guy to make a mixtape, and they put Purple Rain on, but Purple Rain is a long song,
right?
So I could have had 3 other songs in the place of that, but that's my experience for the most part, on the surface with Prince.
Same here, yeah. I mean, I have always respected Prince, but I feel from a distance, when I think of the major artists to me that have resonated with me from the 80s, I think of course Michael Jackson. Then I like some pop, I like Hall & Oates. But yeah, I've never really had an intimate relationship with Prince's music, so I was sad to hear of his death, but I wouldn't say it profoundly affected me in the ways that it had other people.
Right, yeah. I mean, my roommate was in tears.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do, so what do you say,
Right.
I don't know the man, so it's who knows, but definitely made a splash for sure, and now Sinead O'Connor is coming out saying that she alleged on Facebook that of all people, Arsenio Hall has been providing Prince drugs for decades.
Such a weird thing to come out of this story because neither of them have really been in the spotlight for a long time. They both kind of had their heyday in the 90s.
Yeah.
So what a strange way for them both to resurface. And it's kind of a bummer because it really kind of tampers what should be a great legacy for Prince, and then here we are having both of them just show up in this kind of gross entanglement of drug accusations, and we don't even know how Prince died yet, do we?
So it's just all talk. It's if you go on TMZ, it's every third article is about Prince's estate, his siblings, how he died. So it's still a huge topic. So I'm glad we got to talk about it here. But Arsenio is turning around and suing Sinead for $5 million. He claims that it's going to affect his character and all of that, libel and all of that business. And then he went on to say that she's pretty unstable, and he calls her a desperate attention seeker. I mean, I always thought she was a touch of crazy.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I think if we're trying to look objectively at this story as people who observe the media, I would have to assume that Arsenio Hall is being unfairly attacked here based on her history. I mean, as you know, there was the infamous incident where she tore the Pope's picture on Saturday Night Live, and it just seems like she's always been one to attract attention. But what is strange, did this just come out of left field? Did they have a previous relationship? It just seems so weirdly unprovoked.
Yes, I know, of all people, him.
I know.
I don't know him personally, but after watching him on The Celebrity Apprentice and a little bit of his show when it was on, the second leg of his show. I don't know, I just don't find that to be in his character.
Right, it seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
I mean, how interesting would it be if we were to find out that he was in some way tied to Prince's death?
Yeah.
I'm doubting we will. But if somehow Sinead O'Connor was actually justified in what she said in here, that would be pretty crazy. But I guess we'll have to stand by and see.
Well, they say that she's had a tense, quote, tense relationship with Prince in the past, so they're wondering just how much she really knows of his life and his day-to-day and things like that. So the whole thing seems like a mess. I don't know. I don't think it's going to change anything for Arsenio in the scheme of his career.
I don't either. I mean, like, $5 million feels a little crazy to me, and it might be because I'm a young guy in Hollywood who's, of course, barely making ends meet, but it's just funny you have to laugh at these cases because is really $5 million of damage being done? I mean, frankly, I haven't heard Arsenio Hall's name in a long time, so in a way I'd have to wonder if this would potentially promote his brand. I don't know, especially because if it was Katie Couric coming out and saying that Arsenio Hall had been dealing drugs to Prince, there might be more authenticity to the story and potentially more media damage. Yeah. But for Sinead O'Connor to come out and say this, it's hard for me to imagine that it was a $5 million consequence.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Things are crazy. Things are said all day.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Who knows? But speaking of crazy things being said and shown, 50 Cent is proving that he is just as ignorant as Sherry is the world's flat shepherd, and had to put out this video that he showed an autistic guy, worked at an airport, who he said, this kid's higher than a mother effer, and followed this kid with his cell phone, and just couldn't get over, like, the, quote, youth of today, and how they just show up to work high and all this, and the kid is autistic, and he has Asperger's syndrome and social anxiety. I can't imagine how that kid must have felt being chased down with a camera.
Yeah, so disappointing, and like, it just feels like it's not at all 50 Cent's place to step in like this, and...
Well, I agree. I'm awarding him the Sherry Shepherd Award.
Announcing the recipient for the Sherry Shepherd Award for Excellence in Ignorance.
50 Cent, I'm looking at you.
It's funny because it kind of ages him a lot for him to even be ranting about youth. I feel like his main demographic is probably people between the ages of 18 and 25. So for him to start complaining about millennials makes him seem so out of touch.
Yeah.
On just one level. And then, of course, to be unintentionally making fun of someone with cognitive disabilities makes him seem even so much more out of touch.
I mean, it makes him look so bad. But whether the kid was high or he is in his current state of just, having, just... what's the correct terminology? You know what I mean? But it's like you shouldn't have a camera in anyone's face anyway when you're a celebrity and you're putting that out there for other people, because those people are private. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just no one's business. Come
on, like, he has so many followers. Like, what a way to... Just so rude.
He had so much pressure put on him to donate money towards Autism Speaks and to other charities. So he ended up just ending it by saying, I'm going to donate $100K and call it a day.
Right.
So, I don't know, to me it's just like he was pressured into doing it. It wasn't like part of the apology, it was like a requirement in the apology.
Right, it's interesting if you're a celebrity with money and there's not some kind of financial restitution. I think it's not enough just to apologize anymore. And I don't know, I think this was probably the right way to handle it. I mean, it's what's so interesting is I think of course he didn't realize that this kid had a cognitive disability, which is a huge problem, but the mistake that he made was videotaping some kid in an airport with his cell phone and posting it on social media. I mean, that's just something... In the first place, you don't do that. It almost feels like karma came back to bite him, owing to the fact that this kid had autism. It's just like, what a mess for him,
Yeah.
But you know what? What else can he do? He apologized. He donated some money. People make mistakes.
Yeah.
We've seen bigger mistakes from people, I think, in the past, but this was a huge lapse in judgment for 50 Cent.
Let's talk about somebody else. Two people I cannot stand. Sharon Osbourne and Ozzy Osbourne are splitting after 33 years of marriage. They are not getting a divorce. They're just splitting for the time being.
So you're not a fan of the Osbournes. Give me your 2 cents. Rant Grants. I want to hear why you don't like the Osbournes.
That woman takes herself so seriously, and the daughter's the same way. The world revolves around them. She is like the end all and be all on that show, The Talk. She says who will pass and who will not over there.
Yeah.
And, I give her credit for being the manager that she is, and she did build a good career for herself and the kids and her husband. But she is just someone I feel like I couldn't work with. I feel like she'd be very difficult.
I can see that. It's interesting. My only exposure to her is really as a judge on America's Got Talent. So I feel like I don't watch a ton of daytime talk TV.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't consider hosting necessarily a passion of mine like it is of yours. So I feel like I haven't seen that side of her. I've only seen her as a judge on that show. And I actually kind of like what she has to say. I think she's got kind of a level-headed opinion on that show when it comes to assessing talent. But
I can see her appeal to people being like someone that says it like it is and is pretty uncensored. But to me, I don't really enjoy her point of view very much. I find her to be rude. I actually ran into her. I was working on one of the daytime Emmys a few years ago, and they sent me over to the table to fill a space real quick.
Yeah.
And she flipped out because
Really?
somebody was up taking a picture. And it wasn't up to me. I was told to go there.
Yeah.
So I'm just that's a side note. But I was just ooh, that was just my one and only interaction with her. I'm not judging my whole opinion based on that one moment, but I'm just looking at her for the personality that she is on television. People love her, though. She has such a strong following. I don't really see it. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's probably a fairly divisive person. She is well-spoken, but now that you mention it, she does seem to take herself very, very seriously. I feel like the instance that you just described is a moment where, I think people in Hollywood sometimes just need to relax, We're on the West Coast, the weather's great, and people are doing what they love, and, it's a ridiculous industry that we've entered into. I think at a certain point, people need to just take a step back and kind of enjoy the ride, and she seems like someone who might not be able to do that in any way.
Yeah, her ego is large.
Yeah.
Her ego is large, so I wonder why they're getting this splitation happening. Mainly, in the past, it was because of Ozzy going back on drugs and alcohol, but they say this time around, there's none of that in the picture. It's just a split. So,
Do you think they're actually done, though?
I don't know.
From what I understand, they have a tumultuous history anyway, right? It would not shock me if in 3 months they were living together again.
Yeah.
I don't know, but who's to say that this is the definitive split? You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. It was the hot news on Mother's Day, so maybe we're supposed to. It seems like kind of a unfortunate omen that we're learning all of this on the day that's supposed to celebrate motherhood.
Yeah. Well, speaking of mothers, I always viewed what is her name, Sharon Osbourne, as the cheap Kris Kardashian, and that's saying something.
You love the Kardashians, don't you?
I can't stand them.
Oh, you like the Kardashians?
I don't talk about them on this show. And sometimes, let me be honest with you, it's not always easy to find really good topics because when you go on these websites and you see what's out there, it's 98% Kardashians.
It's a lot of Kardashians.
Yeah, so it's very hard to cut them out. But I want to provide a safe space for listeners where they don't have to worry about listening about Kylie Jenner or about the other Saint and the other one, what they're wearing and stuff like that. Let's change gears and look back at a show that Jeff and I have just really bonded over.
Immediately.
The Flavor of Love provided millions of people quality entertainment as women fought for Flavor Flav.
The thing is, Flavor of Love, no matter what anyone says about the show, it's hard to deny the importance of that show in the history of reality TV.
Thank you.
It was kind of a revolution when it came out, and it's kind of the first reality TV I watched, and I could simultaneously admit that it was garbage, but also admit that it was also one of the best, most brilliant things I'd ever seen in my entire life.
Before its time.
I know, so far before its time. Yeah. You're just watching the most beautiful train wreck ever to be recorded on TV, and it started careers.
So we took a look at where things lie today with some of these girls and Flav himself. So if you've been watching Family Therapy or Celebrity Big Brother, you know that Tiffany New York Pollard she's back from whatever rock she was under. She's back in the ethosphere, and she revealed that she was pregnant. And she talked about this at the beginning of family therapy. She said, she told her mother, I could be pregnant. And then the mother said, well, I'm going to take the baby from you if you are.
Oh, man.
And so that was weird. And then she ended up losing the child early on in the filming of this show, which has to be a nightmare to endure when you're, literally no privacy.
Right.
And you're in an uncomfortable environment with your mother who you don't get along with. And she didn't even believe that her daughter was pregnant.
Have you been watching Family Therapy?
Yeah.
I actually haven't. I'd love to go back and watch it.
It's all on, yeah.
Yeah. I think anything with New York is gold. As you guys know, from the beginning, I work at AfterBuzz with Grant, and pretty much what that means is we record essentially every single show that's airing on TV. And I actually watched a lot of this TV One show called The Next 15. Did you watch that at all with Jen Williams?
I haven't, but I know what you're talking about, yeah.
It was so much fun for me to re-enter the life of Tiffany Pollard, just because no matter what, she guarantees good TV. Mm-hmm. No matter what, she's very, very funny. She's I think
she can talk.
She can talk. And some of it's unintentional, but I think she's smarter than people give her credit for. And I think there's a genuine sense of humor. Well, see, and this is what I liked about Flavor of Love, was it never had the guise of being a serious show.
Yes.
Right from the start, Flavor Flav walks in with a huge clock. They're playing these ridiculous... Everyone's named Hoops and New York and Pumpkin without a P. You know from the start that you're watching something ridiculous. So you're primed for it. And when you... Even a show like Dr. Phil, I don't want to complain and I don't want to... I guess we're supposed to rant on this podcast,
Absolutely.
Right? He... creates this show under the guise that he's, a very serious psychiatrist.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, and so you kind of feel like you're being duped. I would rather enter the situation knowing I'm watching something ridiculous.
Yes.
That's how The Next 15 was. It was not for a moment that I think I was watching something serious. So.
Yeah, no, that's all my favorite shows are that way. I can get behind it if they know what the show is.
Right.
And they're not trying to make it this top, network, we're going to win an Emmy.
Right.
With all these people screaming at each other. I can't get behind any of that. So The Flavor of Love is perfect for me because it was a spoof on something that people to this day, The Bachelor, take incredibly seriously.
Yeah.
And have money involved in it and everything. I remember cutting a family vacation short to be able to come home to see the premiere of season 3 of Flavor of Love.
Good for you, Grant.
Yes, I made my family get home. But there's so much stuff has happened with New York, and she's told Steve Harvey that she did have a miscarriage, and then the mother... Also, she said that she did a spiritual assessment. She knew that her daughter wasn't pregnant, but the test was positive. She was with child.
Wow.
So the mother still doesn't believe that she ever really was. And sadly enough, she lost this baby only weeks before Celebrity Big Brother, another show we've discussed on this podcast. And I watched that show religiously. And it's makes sense to me now. Because she's crazy to begin with.
Right.
But her emotions were all over the place on that show. And so to be able to go from something like that when you're literally on your own pregnant, you go through losing that child, and then you have to be under these cameras for a month or two.
Okay, so I'm trying to get the timeline straight. Because she was on the UK version of Celebrity Big Brother, right? But that already aired.
Yeah,
so
it aired live. Yeah, so it was on live. So that was as she was going through that loss and mourning that child.
She's on the show.
And she said in an interview that she wanted to talk about that on Celebrity Big Brother. She wanted to talk about her loss. But Christina Rycroft, who was on the show, she was on Strictly Dancing over there.
Okay.
She was with child, and she announced it on the show that she was pregnant. And they gave her a lot of special passes and treatments. She left early because she was pregnant. So she didn't want to take that away from Christina because that was Christina's story. That was her truth.
Wow, that's surprisingly classy for Tiffany Pollard.
Yeah, well, it's as serious as it can get. It's, trying.
You're right. I guess when it comes to really high stakes serious issues, she actually has some class. She's smart. I think she wouldn't be where she was today if she weren't doing something right. Clearly she's smart. She knows her brand. She knows what sells, and maybe that would have pushed her brand too far outside of being tolerable.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Flav is still having a tough time. I'm still waiting for VH1 to just pick him up off the floor and throw him back on for Flavor of Love 4. VH1, you know that show would do well.
Oh my gosh, we would have viewing parties every night.
Oh, and I'd be on that AfterBuzz panel. I'm putting it on right here. I'm telling Yes, I'm telling Jeff right now, make that happen. Flav, well, in February, he pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor and DUI charges. He acknowledged that he had marijuana residue in his system. That just sounds gross.
Yeah, what does that mean? I guess that just means it's...
Residue of any kind.
Yeah.
It's like the word moist. It's just, oof.
It's not a good word.
No. And then in January, he pleaded no contest to falling asleep in a car on the side of the road where he had marijuana in his system then as well. Last May, he was caught speeding and had open container charges thrown up against him. And this was by the McCarran Airport in Las Vegas. Very classy. And then those were all dropped out of, as a result of a plea deal for other charges that he was already facing. He has no driver's license, and he has charges that he's facing in New York State as well. Flav.
It's so interesting whenever I hear about wealthy people getting DUIs, because I'm like, take an Uber. Do you know what I mean?
God. I know, there's really no excuse for it now.
Especially now. Like, I don't know how much money Flav has right now, but you would just think, I mean, like, you can get anywhere in Uber for $30 or less. Like, if I can afford to Uber in LA... Yeah. I feel like Flavor Flav should be taking an Uber. It's easier. You can be on whatever substances you'd like. Exactly. Just don't throw up in the car.
There you go.
I don't know. I just feel like in today's climate, whenever I hear about a DUI, I'm like, how? What? Like, come on. There's so many options.
Someone was telling me the other day that in LA, DUIs have dropped so much that now cops are going after people for small things because they've lost so much money in what they used to make in DUIs because of Uber and Lyft and these people who are these car services. So instead of rewarding people,
I know,
they're looking for things.
Parking has gotten worse in LA probably because the signs are much more confusing and they're trying to dupe you and get you in any way that they can.
Well, VH1 reached out to Hoops and asked her about her relationship with Flav, and they said, look, the non-disclosure agreement is up. You can say whatever you want about your experience.
Right.
And she stands by her man. She says that they're still good friends, and she had legit, genuine feelings for Flav.
He seems like a nice guy.
I know, but he's kind of gross.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, like... Yeah,
it's fun to be like friends with someone if you're not gonna like hook up with them, but these girls like hooking up with them.
It is, I mean that show is just a train wreck. Like it was the first of its kind.
Anyone fighting for Flav, I mean, I'm in. I'm 100% in. I would even go on the show myself and fight for him just to be part of the experience. I would just love it. And something else she said that was heartbreaking to me, but also very insider, is that they said that the women on the show did not know who the subject was going to be. They just knew they were going to be on a Bachelor-style show. They didn't know who was going to walk in the door. So when Flav walked in... I mean, I have to believe that all these girls didn't even know who he was. I have to believe that maybe like 3/4 of them did, and others probably had to double check. Like, is that Flav? Like, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, I mean, who knows? But unless if they all watch Strange Love and that other show, The Surreal Life, which, oh God, there's a need for The Surreal Life on television.
Yeah, that needs to come back. That show was fun, and it like... I haven't watched Big Brother, which I know is crazy. I'm probably the only person in Los Angeles who hasn't. But am I right in saying that the shows are similar?
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, a similar style of like that being a house show with cameras and stuff. Yeah.
So I probably would like Big Brother because I thought This Real Life was a lot of fun. But
yeah. Oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Scientology and that 2020 interview with Ron Miscavige, who is writing that book. It's out now, Ruthless. And it's quite... I haven't read the book, but that... I watched the 2020 episode twice, and then they had it, they replayed it, like, for, like, Dateline or Nightline, and then, of course, Going Clear. We've talked about that on the show before. I'm just fascinated by the whole thing.
It's unbelievable. It's funny. I came here from Cleveland, Ohio, and, like, I love LA, but there's nothing like Scientology in Cleveland. Like, it's just been... I've got a friend, I was telling Grant before the show, I've got a buddy named Sheldon, and we actually only once were walking down Hollywood Boulevard, And there's the Scientology Center right in the corner of, I think, Las Palmas in Hollywood, right by, like, you know, El Capitan and all those theaters. And we were like, do we do this? Do we go inside? And we totally went inside to check it out, which in retrospect, I've heard was a mistake. Like, I've heard there may or may not be photo identification software. And, like, I haven't heard anything since. But, like, right away, we were like, listen, we're only staying for 10 minutes. That's what we told them. We walked in, there was someone at the door, and we said, we have a hard out in 10 minutes. Is this something we should do? Can we walk in? Will we be able to leave in 10 minutes? And she's like, oh, yeah, you can do it. So we sat down and we watched 2 movies.
Oh, God.
That were actually surprisingly well produced. Like, I think our thought was, like, I can see how easy it would be to be sucked into this. You know, if you were in a rough place in your life and it seems like a welcoming community. And then my buddy Sheldon did the Thetan E-meter thing.
Oh, wow.
And that was, I think, when I got freaked out. I was like, we have to go. So we were probably only in there for 8 or 9 minutes. But I will say they were pretty cordial. There was more rooms in the back, and who knows what's going on in those rooms, so we didn't go back there.
There's a lot of rooms in all their buildings. I'm always curious what goes on behind those windows. Like, is there even anybody in there?
I don't know.
They've opened up so many buildings. They opened up one in Atlanta, there's Prague, I believe, like all over the world now. There are these buildings, so they're expanding their presence, but I don't know if they're expanding their flock.
It just seems like, how is this still a thing? Like, you would think after Going Clear and then South Park that, like, people would start to kind of be like, maybe I should have second thoughts about entering into a relationship with this church. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It fascinates me that not only is it existing still, but it seems like it's kind of doing well. I mean, after that HBO documentary, I was like, they are done. I was like, we will not be hearing about Scientology again. But they seem to be doing as well as they ever have.
I don't know. I think it's all how they want you to perceive their church.
I'm sure.
They seem to be huge about perception.
Yeah.
Like that, that David Miscavige, he doesn't make any public appearances. He doesn't go on television shows. He doesn't really speak to the press. In that 2020 video, they had, like, press, like ABC News, and they're like, we want to talk with David. Like, we're here. He's giving a speech. They're cutting the ribbon on this new facility. Like, we're the press. We're legit ABC News. And like, yeah, no, he's just too busy. He can't do it. So it's like he's isolated himself so much. It's such an odd thing. Then Ron talked about where he stayed at this base, and they had the former head of security come, and he said that they built that whole base into the side of a mountain. And they said there's nowhere to escape. Even if you went over the mountain, there's nothing there for days.
It feels like Waco. Like, it feels like Branch Davidian stuff. And I just think it's crazy that it's such a hugely occupied church. I mean, let's use the word cult. I mean, like, it's crazy. The whole thing's crazy. And if you're going to enter into a church or a belief system or whatever, and one of the tenets and one of the pillars of this belief system is disagreement leads to forever writing off that person in your life, that's a red flag and should make you reevaluate what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm a churchgoer. I go every Sunday. My girlfriend and I do, whatever. But, like, I would never, like, if, like, let's say one of my best friends all of a sudden really denounced my faith, I wouldn't say I can never speak to you again. That's crazy. That just feels like something that you should just, if you hear that that's a foundation of the belief system you're entering, you should run for the bushes, man.
Yeah. Well, they claim that, it's not a prison and that people are very happy there and it's a utopian workplace and, that's what they say. I don't know. I'm sure Scientology has done great things for some people, but for this man, he was just like, he described this whole escape he had to have where he pulled out slowly. They had to get in the habit of leaving on Sundays so it wouldn't be odd that he was leaving. And then as soon as he hit the street, it took off. Yeah. So I don't know. What was interesting is that his wife, who they met while they were both Scientologists, she didn't say a word. She was barely on the screen. So she just kind of let him do all the talking. He doesn't have the best past.
I know. That's what's so interesting about all of this.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a colored past, and it allowed the church to be able to submit videos and statements of people who did work with him to be able to slam him. But, they showed, in the church's defense, they said, hey, like, we look, here are all the pictures of him having a great time here. Like, he, like, lived a full life here. Like, he wasn't, like, chained to a wall.
Right.
But at the same time, he said it had to be a plotted escape. It had to happen. Like, he said that they were going through his mail, incoming, outgoing, phone calls. They needed passwords. Nobody needs to know all that information.
Yeah, and it makes you think, like, maybe there is legitimacy to the fact that he really had to plot an escape. Like, if all of his communication is being filtered, the only way to escape is probably to physically try to get out of there somehow. Because, like, you can't contact the police, you can't contact a lawyer, because all of your communication is being filtered through a third party.
And Leah Remini, famous for making her exit from the church, she said people that are in that world and in that church, that's their entire world. That's all they know. So even if they were to leave, they don't have anyone on the outside that they could go to. Because, I mean, I think that's kind of extreme, because I think you can be a Scientologist and have a life, like, in the streets of the USA. But for the most part, for those people who do come up as children or they're part of that C organization, I just feel like, when you are that dedicated to anything, you do lose touch with people, or you don't have those relationships. So where do you go? What do you do?
I know, and I think we're the same way. I try not to judge people for what they believe, and like, I want to be careful. You never know who you meet out here. They might be a Scientologist, So I don't.
I've never met one.
I haven't met one yet either.
I mean, I met one who was an actress, but that wasn't like a meeting. That wasn't like someone I knew.
Right.
I never like had like a buddy that was a Scientologist.
Neither have I, and like I never want to be the person that like would just make terrible assumptions about you because of what you believe. But yeah, I feel like LA is probably the perfect city for a church like this to thrive, because so many people come here with dreams and, work to achieve them and try to find a community and try to find a place. And it kind of feels like the church is the place that could welcome broken people, who missed the mark in some way into a new, exciting life. It's, it's like the go west young man mentality that kind of built this country. I think Scientology probably is fueled by that a little bit, and that's why it probably thrives in a city like Hollywood.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And they do kind of, I don't want to use the word target, but they gear their message towards people that are trying to be sober and trying to go through programs. Right. They have their own program, which I'm sure has helped people, but it also makes people dependent on the Church of Scientology. It's just an odd thing all around.
Yeah.
The presence of it is just weird.
Yeah.
But what more can we say?
Yeah, what more can be said? It is what it is.
You're listening to Grant's Rants. Please rate, subscribe, and share on iTunes and social media. Spread the word. There are a lot more rants to come. Follow us on Twitter at Grants__rants. And now for the one-on-one.
The album is Taking Honky Back, and we're here with the rapper from the album, Jeff, or Graham Cracker.
Graham Cracker, yeah. If you want to find my writing, you can look for Jeff Graham. If you want to find my ridiculous over-the-top rap videos, you can search Graham Cracker Rap. So
I like it.
It's kind of my alter
duality
ego.
Going on.
Exactly,
I like it. Very smart. So let's talk a little bit about both sides of Jeff. I want to know a little bit of everything, including your time working as a cruise ship performer.
This was amazing, and it's something I just kind of stumbled into. Excuse me. And I don't think if I would have done it, I probably wouldn't even be out here in LA right now. So I consider it a very important part of kind of my artist journey. So when I was in college, I sang in an a cappella group, actually. And 3 of my best friends and me, who I sang in the group with, decided to give it a shot. And at the beginning of our senior year of college, we applied as a cruise ship vocalist quartet, like an act, to get hired as entertainers on a ship, and we were shocked to find that we got accepted.
Oh.
So
I didn't know you could do that. I thought it was just separate, like one
typically
performer,
it is.
They just pull someone on to replace who was leaving.
They almost always do that, but what's so interesting is, if you're seeing it, have you cruised before?
I actually have not.
Okay, I would recommend
my
it.
father's a little bit of a control freak, so we could never do it growing up.
Well, if you ever want to, I can give you all the inside dirt on what mine you should be cruising and stuff. But
okay, yeah.
Typically, the entertainment is divided into 2 kind of components. There will be stage shows that are musicals and variety shows, and then lounge acts, which are more like singer-songwriters or small kind of coffee house trios.
Yeah.
And so those acts actually get hired through agencies that specialize in ensembles. So because the 4 of us were such a package deal and our kind of chemistry as an act had been built all the way through college, we were actually kind of viewed more as an asset than just, taking 4 random vocalists and sticking them together. If that makes sense. Because it's kind of important that when you're building a quartet, you kind of package them as a 4-person deal like that. So that was really cool.
Because very, very successful to be able to transition that and to make money and do it.
It was kind of crazy because the 4 of us laugh because I don't think any of the 4 of us are probably talented enough vocalists to do this on our own. But we're like, we can game the system. Like if the 4 of us just, because we're different voice parts, so it's like we have a bass, a tenor, a baritone, and if we can just build our own act and dupe everyone into hiring us as an actual, legitimate cruise ship act, we can potentially do this. So it was a really, really amazing 6 months. I learned more about myself and those other 3 guys and the experience of kind of like the transitioning into adulthood than I kind of ever realized that I would.
Yeah.
So it was really great.
Now, how did you go into putting the show together and music selection and the influence of the cruise line versus the independent qualities you have yourself?
That's a great question because it actually was a huge issue. Our agent did a nice job kind of shaping our sound and our act because that's what he did. He put a group together 20 years ago and then was massively successful on ships, so he decided to form his own agency and hire quartets. So
very specific.
Very, very specific, which is sometimes the way to do it. In Hollywood, you want to try to create a really specific brand.
Yeah.
So his thing was that we wanted to kind of be a jukebox for any kind of cruise patron that could come in. So we had songs from the 40s, the classic doo-wop songs, but we also sang like Lady Gaga and Katy Perry and Bruno Mars, and we had Hall & Oates. So basically we tried to cover at least 4 or 5 major hits from every decade. We had about a 60-song library, so...
Wow, yeah, that's a lot to work with.
It sounds like a lot, but the funny thing with pop music is that some of it is so repetitive that we could use the same kind of backup vocals for any song and then, just put another vocal line over it.
Yeah.
So it was, in some ways it was very daunting to learn 50 songs, but in some ways it was actually much more manageable than we realized it would be. So yeah, it was really cool. And you asked about how do we balance our own sound versus what the cruise ship wants.
Yeah.
This was a really fascinating and kind of tricky line to navigate because we were on Celebrity, which is a subsidiary of Royal Caribbean, and their brand is modern luxury, is how they bill themselves. And this was just such a broken marketing campaign because Celebrity for a long time was notoriously old. They skewed to very old passengers, which was great. That was their brand, that was their niche, and they were doing very, very well. And they kind of brought in a new CEO, and they're like, we need to change all of this. But of course, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And so all of a sudden they create this new campaign that's modern luxury, which is kind of trying to create a marriage between contemporary art and sounds and styles with like classic luxury. But it just ended up being this very broken, kind of tacky art decor and sound. And like, for example, the crowning piece of art on our ship on the top floor was a papier-mâché version of R2-D2.
Oh.
And like that was what I'm serious. Yeah, and that was what the ship considered modern luxury. Or there were these like mannequins that were covered in pieces of broken car. Like it was just just
That's
a mess.
Odd. Yeah.
So like they would ask us to sing these really weird songs, and we're like, the people don't want to hear this. They want to hear doo-wop. They want to hear classic. It's like we would have, occasionally it would be great when we would be singing like Katy Perry and stuff, but we would get, 30 old 70-year-old women coming to our set and being like, what is this music? And we're like, our boss wants us to sing this, but our agent wants us to sing this. So they called it Molux. Modern luxury was Molux, and it was just... Oh man, we just felt like we needed someone to step in and correct their marketing. But the cruise ship employment is wild. And if we could get into a little bit, I'd love to talk about specifically what makes it crazy, because I actually ended up writing a feature script about this. I got a little bit of attention this year on the Blacklist. But yeah, cruise ship employment is crazy. There's, on the Celebrity Summit, which was our ship, there was 4,000 people total on the ship. 1,000 of those people were crew who live on the ship for typically at least 3 months. I'd say an average of 6 months, but up to a year. It's all these people who were living with a no regrets attitude because, you've got 6 months on this ship. You're never going to see these people again.
Yeah.
It's not like you're driving so you can drink as much as you want. It's not like you're even working much so you can drink as much as you want. So people just would go crazy on these cruise ship contracts and just hook up left and right, and people were always drunk. And it was kind of, I went to a party college, and the environment of cruise ship employment felt shockingly wild to me.
Wow.
So I think it's funny because it's people who go upstairs and they turn it on and they're these formal employees.
Yeah.
And they go downstairs and they're slamming shots in the crew-only club at the bottom of the ship. So
Wow.
it's pretty wild, yeah.
So all of this inspired you to write Ship Life.
Mm-hmm.
And for those, describe the Blacklist.
Yeah, so the Blacklist it's kind of evolved, but in 2006 it started as a survey. Franklin Leonard, who was a creative executive at Leonardo DiCaprio's production company, noticed that there was a lot of really, really wonderful, well-liked scripts floating around in Hollywood that weren't getting developed for whatever reason. So he thought maybe if there was more agreement upon what creative executives agree is excellent writing, people might be more prone to buy these scripts. Because for whatever reason, like a script like Little Miss Sunshine, it's one of my favorite movies ever, is, of course, perfect script. It's an amazing movie, won every Oscar possible. But it's a risky project for a studio to develop because it's not conventional. So by surveying these creative executives and saying, we asked 500 creative executives in Hollywood, and 50 of them said they loved this script called Little Miss Sunshine, there's more confidence to back a project like that. So that's what the Blacklist started out as, was a way for kind of undiscovered writers to get their riskier work noticed. Since then, it's been developed into a website where people can submit writing and submit scripts and get feedback. So I submitted Ship Life in January of this year and actually got a couple good reviews. And for March was listed in a group of like top scripts just for that month.
Well, congratulations.
So, thank you. Yeah, it's exciting. So I want to be clear that I wasn't listed on like the annual Blacklist, which is a really, really big deal, but I was listed as a top script for March.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a good step for me, definitely.
That list has grown so much,
Yeah.
and there's a lot on there now. I
Right.
went to a session where they spoke about that, and yeah, that's no small feat, so good for you.
Thank you. It's a very non-conventional script because it's actually a musical, so it kind of borrows components of a movie like Pitch Perfect, but it also, I'd say tonally, it's more like something Judd Apatow might produce, like kind of like a lot of cringe comedy and like mistake prone. Yeah, it's about a quartet, obviously inspired by my own experience, who learns through their mistakes.
Yeah.
Some more like high stakes than others. So I'm proud of it, and I think it might not be the most marketable script, but it's definitely a great sample for me of, I think, kind of my voice as a writer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, also you wrote the pilot Spin, and I checked that out. And talk a little bit about that project. So this is a pilot you wrote.
Yeah.
Is that how you're shopping it around?
We're trying, yeah. I mean, it's a rough go for writers who are trying to pitch without a ton on their resume. But I actually co-wrote this with my writing partner. And it's kind of a fast-paced action comedy, actually, which isn't usually what I would normally write. But we're really proud of what we've done. We kind of pitch it as something like sort of Arrested Development meets The Hangover because it kind of has the screwball tone.
I got that.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah.
Definitely. Because the premise is these kind of 6 Hollywood insiders who have a crazy night and wake up in jail and don't know how they got there. And basically what they realize is that they did something much more dangerous than they had realized. And so they're kind of spending the rest of the 10-episode season. We're probably pitching 10 to 16 episodes because it's kind of like streaming style content.
Okay.
They're using that time to try to put the pieces back together and kind of undo the damage they did in that one night. And it's sort of like you discover as the audience at the same time as the characters all the crazy shit that they did that night. It's it's kind of like they did more in that 12-hour night than they even ever could have imagined. Yeah. So it's kind of fun to go back both as the characters and the audience and kind of uncover what actually happened.
Nice.
So it's called Spin.
Yeah, that's something I would look at. I like that because it's not linear. It's
not linear. Exactly. Yeah, so it's a really easy way as a writer to structure an A story and a B story because you can trace the characters through everyday life, but then there's also like the looming consequences of the choices they made in the first episode. So yeah, it's very silly, very fun, very screwball tone. So I like comedy a lot, so that was fun for me to write.
Well, it seems to me like music has really kind of played a lot, like an underlying force through your career.
Definitely, yeah. I kind of have always identified myself as a musician from the start, but I've always loved writing too. So I think my perfect dream job would be a way to kind of integrate both.
Yeah. So you had 3 albums that you've self-produced. Started out with coming out your first EP in what was it, the 7th grade?
Yeah, in 7th grade, I released a 6-track EP.
There you go.
Yeah, it actually started as kind of a joke. I was sitting in study hall and I was like, I bet I could make a CD. And someone's like, I bet you couldn't do it. And I was like, yeah, I can totally do it. And like being a 7th grader, you're just kind of a wiener. So I put together a 6-song EP called Jeff's Assorted Fruit. and all the songs were about different pieces of fruit with personalities.
Oh, wow.
This was very, very serious. It sort of started the tone of the serious content that I've written over the last 10 years.
I like that because it's like you came up with something and you got it done. You did it at a young age. I can relate to that. I always had these ideas and they got made. And so many people are just talk out of there behind and don't do anything. So I like that you did that.
Oh, for sure. And Grant, I'm a fan of this podcast. I think it's so amazing what you've done with this.
Oh,
and you've attracted a legitimate fan base. I was reading your reviews and a lot of people understandably and justifiably love the show.
Oh,
so.
Thank you. And I'm so appreciative of those people. Believe me, it keeps me going. Yeah. So, I always admire people who, like, say they're going to do something and do it.
Right.
Especially, because it's a lot of chatter. So, going back to the beginning, when you told me at AfterBuzz that you wanted to put this together, this album, and it's here now. Talk about the process. Walk me through, where you recorded, what the writing process was like, and then I want to get into the music videos.
Yeah, so I'm kind of inspired by Lonely Island, Lil Dicky, and just there's a lot of comedy rap out there. So one goal I had with this album was to try to distinguish myself from other comedy rappers with kind of a unique voice, which I think with at least a couple of the tracks I've definitely done. But two other writers who I really admire are Sarah Schneider and Chris Kelly over at Saturday Night Live. I don't know if you know, they're kind of usually the voice and the ideas behind the music videos that SNL puts out. So Do It on My Twin Bed, and I don't know if you've been watching this season, but the feminist song one, and the Elizabeth Banks, I think it's called First Got Horny to You, with Elizabeth Banks, and they're throwing back to all these 90s artists. I thought, you know what, I love music and I like comedy. I really feel like my strengths could play well into kind of trying to do this on my own, create music video parodies.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to give it a shot.
Why the hell not?
Exactly. So the very first song I wrote was First Date, which is kind of taking the idea of rappers who brag so much about their game and just throwing it on its head and just describing a terrible first date. And so that was the first one I wrote, and then people kind of liked it. So I was like, I'll write another one. And eventually, after about 6 months, I had 10 tracks that I was ready to at least keep developing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think it's tough to just sell audio, so I want to try to shoot a couple of them. So since then, I've shot a couple. But
smart. That's how you'll gain any type of viralness. Right. You know what I mean? Definitely. The sharing. Yeah, because even now I feel like even SoundCloud doesn't have the power behind it anymore that it once had.
It doesn't, yeah.
It's all about sharing things now, so... So yeah, I think that's smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's I'm really proud of these videos. They're very ridiculous, but it's kind of made me learn. I kind of like trying to produce and direct short form video content. I don't know if I've got the knack yet for directing a whole entire narrative based whatever, but actually First Date tells a story, and it was really fun to try to do the same thing I do in audio and visuals as well. So it's really fun. It's fun shit.
Well, the standout track for me was Nasty Girls, and I like that, especially because of the music video.
Oh my gosh.
And so well done and fun. And so I think we should give a little listen.
Let's do it.
Ladies, nasty ladies, we nasty ladies, and we do whatever you like. On the bed, on the floor, if you're asking for more, we gon' get buck wild tonight. Crazy, freaky, twisted, ratchet, sicker than a rhinoplasty. Call me flirty, call me dirty, but don't forget to call me nasty.
I love it. I think it's really funny, and the video that complements it is just leaves nothing to the imagination.
Oh, I had to think seriously about whether or not I wanted to put this out in the world or not, because
I bet
the first one is much more palatable. It's a lot more toned down, and I was promoting this a bit on The Beat, but which is a show on Black Hollywood Live where we work, but I'm literally wearing a two-piece walking around on the world's most famous modeling beach, and there are legitimate international models shooting in bikinis, as am I. And gosh, that was a moment when you just had to really repress your vanity for the sake of comedy.
Yeah, you have to commit to
You've got to commit.
Yeah. I love it though. If y'all have to check out the music video, where is it? How can we find it?
So the easiest way, I don't have enough subscribers to get a customizable YouTube.
I know, me neither.
So both of us will just have to make that a goal for this year.
I know.
But if you just search Graham Cracker Nasty Ladies, you'll find it. Mm-hmm. And you can find, I've got a couple other videos too. It's Graham Cracker Rap is my handle for most of my other stuff. And if you just Google search YouTube for Graham Cracker First Date or Graham Cracker Nasty Ladies, you'll find it.
You'll find his channel. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth checking out. Jeff leaves it all out there. There's a full dance. I loved it. I think it's so funny. Yeah. And I want to know, shooting this video, how did it come about? How long did it take? Who edited it? Like, what was that process like to launch a music video?
Well, here's the advice I would give to anyone. All of this was much easier than I would have expected, which is great. I was lucky. I used the same director of photography that I used for Spin. So the best way to kind of find success in Hollywood is try to get out here when you're on the younger end and just meet people. You know what I mean? It's so important to just build your network, and that's the foundation, I think, of success out here. Just meet people and work. Just put out work and meet people.
Yep.
And this DP is great. His name's AJ. He's a good friend of mine. And I was like, I've got these songs. Have you wanted to shoot a music video before? And he's like, I haven't really done music videos. I'd love to. So it was the easiest collaboration ever. And both of the shoots were pretty doable. My girlfriend does some set decoration, so she helped me with that. But really, Nasty Ladies I just had to find some willing people. And the nice thing is, the dancers I had in the background were so game. Like, I warned them. I was like, this is, just so you know, there's going to be a breakdown in the middle of this where we fuel a beat with fart noises. Are you willing to do this on a public beach? And they were like, hell yeah, let's do this. So you just gotta find the right team.
I would love it. I've made music videos all through high school, like even like gossip folks. So like I love that you have like a Missy in the back.
Oh, of
so
course.
Like I know what you mean. Where you just said you have to commit to these things. So I never ran around in a bikini on the beach, but I did crazy things in my school, and also just it brings me back. I think that's why I like it so much, because I can appreciate the work that you have to do and just like owning it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And there's definitely like a Weird Al component. Like there's a nostalgia factor
definitely.
for me, borrowing from my favorite parody rappers in the past, or parody anything. But honestly, at the end of the day, that was an easy shoot. It was one location. It was just the beach. The choreographies were intentionally terrible, as you can tell, but I like quote unquote choreographed it too. So it's probably only a 5-hour shoot. And the nice thing is my DP did such a nice job that I actually ended up just cutting it together.
Oh, nice.
I'm sure I could find probably a better editor. I think if I were to look back on the strengths of these music videos, editing probably isn't the number one. But they're kind of serving as a calling card for me more as a writer-director. So
there you go. Yeah, exactly. You're not trying to be like this package deal. I'm showing off my editing skills.
Right.
Like,
and I think the editing's fine. I haven't had anyone watch it yet and be distracted by the editing. So,
I did not realize. That's why I asked who edited it, because I didn't realize that you did it. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. I just use iMovie, so one day when I can afford it, I'll pay an editor.
What's the process like when it comes to recording these? Like, are you renting space? Like, are you using specific programs? What is it like?
So you'll probably be surprised. I'm actually not. I have a... this is bad. I can't remember the brand of microphone right now. It's funny. I'm so not an audio engineer.
Yeah.
I'm enough that I can fake it. So I use GarageBand, and I just got a $100 microphone, and it's great. And you know what? I just mute it. I'll record in my closet, and then just do a little bit of compression on GarageBand. And the tracks, they don't sound amazing. It's not like it's Drake's production, but they're good enough that the message and the point of the songs is being communicated, which is the goal. Yeah,
I mean, that's what's so wonderful now about being able to do your own stuff. I have a very loose setup for this show,
right?
And I feel like if I had even more, nobody listening would know. You know what I mean? So it's wonderful that we can produce our own work.
And with production, the essence of the content is what matters. You know what? You can have the most well-engineered, well-cut-together TV show, and if the story's not working, no one cares if the art direction's great. And on that same token, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or Broad City, one of my favorite shows, started as a web series. And you know what? The storytelling and the content and the voice was so strong that people responded to it because the essence of what was being produced was strong. And that's why I would encourage anyone to make their own work, because if you commit to your voice, you can make something great on a shoestring. Mm-hmm. You know?
It's true.
Like this podcast. I mean, I love it. And there's so many podcasts, and this one has a specific focus, direction, and voice with you at the helm, Grant. And that's why people are responding so positively to it.
Oh, again, I am flattered.
Yeah, of course.
It's not easy to be able to build your own little everything. Your own everything. Your own video, your own sound booth in your closet, your own editing of audio, and getting the music. And so it's like, it definitely takes a focus. So
takes a focus. I've got a good team. It's been great to work with AJ. I've got to give him a shout out. My director of photography. He's got a really good eye. And like, I'm officially directing these shoots, but like, he is really good at composing shots and kind of helping me with the visual stuff. So that helps a lot, definitely.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, thanks, Jeff, for coming in. Check out the album. Where can we find it?
So this is probably where I need to get better, is at promoting myself, but I've been tweeting more. You guys can find my Twitter at Jeffrey C. Graham. I'm going to put the link to both the album as a download, a direct download, and my YouTube channel in my bio. I need to do that right when I get home. And so you can find it there.
You can find the link in the information below this episode.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Grant. You can also go, I've got a Facebook. It's facebook.com/GrahamCrackerRap. You can go to soundcloud.com/GrahamCrackerRap. And if you Google Graham Cracker and then either First Date or Nasty Ladies, you'll find both the videos. I'll probably post the audio from this on my YouTube and give you a shout out.
Okay, cool.
So people can get directed to your show.
Thank you. Yeah,
of course.
That's
and
great.
then
Let's cross promotion symphony
that's
work.
That's how it works. Yeah, and I think I'm gonna post lyric videos for the rest of the album on my YouTube page too. So Graham Cracker Rap is where you can find me pretty much everywhere.
Are there any more music videos coming?
Yeah, I'm shooting another one this month, and then I told you I want you to be in it, but I'm gonna do my first shoot with a lot of background. So if any of you are in LA and interested, tweet at me at Jeffrey C. Graham.
There you go.
But I think I figured out a way to use one set and actually shoot 2 videos. So I'm going to try to...
Nice.
Yeah, that's the content's similar for both, but thematically super different. So I think I can use the same set and background and shoot 2 different ones. So.
Well, you heard it here first. Be on the lookout. That'll do it for us for today's episode of Grant's Rants. Jeff, thanks for coming and talking everything from Scientology to... being in a 2-piece on the beach.
Oh, Grant, it's been so much fun. As a fan of this podcast, it's really kind of an honor for me to be here. So I really appreciate it, man, of course.
Thank you very much. Well, that'll do it for Grant's Rants Hollywood Talk for now. Please be on the lookout for an announcement coming up. They're making a little announcement about different things for the podcast. Going in a good direction, so check that out. You can always follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Just search all that as well. And tell a friend about the show. That'll do it for us.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks again for having me, Grant. It was a blast. You can find my Twitter at Jeffrey C. Graham and Graham Cracker Rap everywhere else for the album.
There you go.
This has been Grant's Rants. Follow us on Twitter at Grants__Rants. Cover art created by Howie Ronay. Voiceover by Sir Richard Wentworth. Original theme music composed by Alexander Arnson.